My name is Natalie Rhodes, and I'm 32 years old. 3 nights ago, my boyfriend looked me in the eye across our kitchen table and told me that everyone at his office thinks I'm the boring one in our relationship. He said it the way you mention a fun fact from a podcast. Casual, almost thoughtful, like he'd spent his entire commute home rehearsing how to make it sound like constructive feedback instead of what it really was, a knife. I'm just being honest, Nat, Evan said, setting his fork down like he was closing a deal. I mean, you know my team. They're blunt. And when I talk about us, they're like, wow, she sounds pretty low energy. He even smiled a little, like we were in on some joke together. I watched condensation slide down my water glass, one droplet racing another toward the ring at the bottom. It felt easier to focus on that than on his face. Is that what we're calling it now? I asked, my voice lighter than I actually felt. Low energy? Boring? He shrugged, the way people do when they've decided your feelings are an overreaction before you've even had them. It's not that simple, he said. You know I love you, but you never want to go out lately, or meet my coworkers, or be spontaneous. He gave a little laugh. They just notice things. Evan and I have been together for 3 years, living together for the last 2. We met at a mutual friend's game night. He was the charismatic guy who told stories with his whole body. I was the one keeping score and making sure the pizza bill got split correctly. He works in marketing at a mid-sized tech company. His office life is this constant swirl of happy hours, birthday drinks, and themed parties. There's always a story. Someone said something outrageous in a meeting. Someone else got too drunk at karaoke. A coworker's dog appeared on a Zoom call and became the team mascot. I used to like hearing about his day. It made my own job, operations for a logistics company, all spreadsheets and schedules, feel less monotonous. My life is steady, not glamorous, not tragic, just solid in a way I've earned, one on-time bill, and carefully saved emergency fund at a time. I didn't realize your coworkers were holding performance reviews on my personality, I said. Evan sighed, like I was missing the point on purpose. Come on, Nat, don't do that thing. I'm saying we should get out more. You never want to go to anything with my team. Chloe literally asked me if you existed or if I made you up. I went to your holiday party, I reminded him. 8 months ago, he shot back. And you left early because you had a headache. I did have a headache. I also had a full week ahead and an inbox that was starting to look like a horror movie. But those details never quite fit into Evan's version of events. 2 months ago, the comments started. Little jokes about me being grandma mode, about how I always wanted to stay in and cook instead of going out, about how his friends thought it was cute that I had a budget spreadsheet for our shared expenses. At first, I laughed along. I've never been the wild one. I'm the one who knows what day the rent is due and how much is in the savings account. I like ballast, the unglamorous, reliable weight that keeps the ship from tipping over. But lately, it felt less like teasing and more like a story he was telling about me in rooms I wasn't in. So when you say everyone at work, I asked quietly, you mean your team? They all think I'm boring. He shrugged again, more uncomfortable this time. They just think you're not very fun, he said. Whenever I mention you staying in or turning down plans, they're like, wow, she sounds intense. You've been complaining about me to your coworkers, I said. Not complaining, he said quickly, just being honest about our relationship. It's normal to talk about your partner at work. There's talking about your partner, I replied, and there's making them sound like a problem you're stuck with. Which one have you been doing? Evan shifted in his chair, bristling. You're being dramatic, he said. You are kind of boring lately. You never want to go anywhere. You don't like my work friends. You're always tired. It's just the truth. For a second, I saw it clearly. This man I'd planned a future with, rehearsing my flaws for an audience that only knew me through his punchlines. Something inside me shifted. Not loudly, not with a crash, just a quiet click, like a door latching. Good to know, I said. Evan rolled his eyes. You always do this, he muttered. You get all serious. I'm trying to have a real conversation. No, I said calmly. You're trying to win an argument your coworkers aren't even here for. We finished dinner mostly in silence. He scrolled on his phone. I cleared the plates and loaded the dishwasher, setting the delayed start for 12:00 a.m., like I always do, so it runs during off-peak hours. Ballast, habit, the little things that make life work. There were 3 big events on our calendar that weekend. A Friday night team happy hour that Evan had begged me to attend just this once. His company's summer party on Saturday, partners invited, big deal, full photo opportunities for social media. His friend's engagement party on Sunday. I'd already RSVP'd, yes. I'd already tried on the dress for the summer party. I'd already mentally budgeted for the Uber rides and the shared gifts. That night, while Evan was in the shower, I opened my laptop. I sent 3 messages. 1 to Chloe, the co-worker organizing the happy hour. Hey, I'm so sorry to cancel last minute, but I won't be able to make it tomorrow. A family situation came up. Hope it's a great night. 1 to the person running the summer party RSVP list. I need to update my response. I won't be attending the event after all. Apologies for any inconvenience. And 1 to his friend's fiancé about the engagement party. I'm really sorry, but I won't be able to come on Sunday. Something's going on with my family, and I don't want to be distracted. I hope it's a beautiful celebration. I stared at the 3 sent emails in my outbox. My heart wasn't racing. I wasn't shaking. I mostly felt tired. If I was going to be the boring one in Evan's stories, the least I could do was stop showing up to provide live entertainment. I closed my laptop, set it on the coffee table, and went to bed. Friday. Evan kissed my cheek on his way out the door in the morning like nothing had happened. He texted me around 3. What time are you heading to the bar? I'll meet you there. I looked at the text, then at the clock. I'm not going, I replied. The 3 dots appeared almost immediately. What? Nat, you promised. I never promised, I typed. You assumed. I sent my regrets to the organizer yesterday. There was a longer pause this time before his response. Why would you do that? I swallowed, feeling the familiar urge to soften things, to make it easier for him. I ignored it. Because I'm the boring one, remember? Why would your fun coworkers want me there bringing down the energy? My phone rang. Evan. I let it go to voicemail. When he got home later, his face was tight. Do you have any idea how that made me look? He demanded, tossing his keys onto the counter. I told everyone you were finally coming. Then I had to tell them you bailed. What did you tell them? I asked. That there was some kind of family thing, he said. I'm not going to announce my girlfriend ditched me because she's in a mood to my team, Natalie. So you lied, I said. Again, about me. His jaw clenched. The summer party is tomorrow, he said. Don't pull this again. This is a huge event. Everyone's bringing their partners. I already pulled it, I said quietly. I emailed the organizer. I'm not going. The silence stretched so long I could hear the refrigerator humming. You're being petty, he finally said. I'm being honest, I replied. You said I don't like meeting your work friends, so I'm not meeting them. Problem solved. Nat, this is ridiculous, he snapped. You're making me look like an idiot. No, I said. You did that when you spent months calling me boring to your coworkers and then acted surprised when I stopped showing up to prove you right. He stared at me like he didn't recognize me. What is wrong with you lately? He asked. Nothing, I said. I just finally heard you. Saturday, he got ready for the summer party alone. He looked incredible in his suit, tie loosely knotted, hair just messy enough to seem effortless. For a moment, I felt a pang for what we were losing. Last chance to change your mind, he said at the door. Have fun, I replied. He left. I spent the day doing all the things he called boring. Reading, going for a solo walk, making myself dinner, watching a documentary I'd bookmarked weeks ago. It was peaceful and lonely and strangely clarifying. He came home just before midnight, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? He snapped. Everyone asking where you were, me having to make up excuses. What did you tell them? I asked. That you had a family emergency, he said. What was I supposed to say? She refused to come because she's punishing me for telling the truth? You could have said I didn't want to come, I said. That would have been honest. He scoffed. You made me look bad in front of my entire company, he said. No, I said, feeling the words settle in my chest, like something finally locking into place. You did that all by yourself. He went to bed without another word. I slept on the couch. Sunday, he tried being sweet, apologetic, said maybe he'd been harsh, calling me boring. I told him I still wasn't going to the engagement party. He went alone. By Monday morning, I was starting to think the whole weekend would just become another story he told about his difficult, boring girlfriend. Then my phone rang around 10 a.m., unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail. Something in my gut told me to answer. Hello? Ms. Rhodes? A male voice asked. This is Michael Park. I'm Evan Carter's boss at Horizon Marketing. My stomach dropped. Hi, I said slowly. Is everything okay? He hesitated. That's what I'm calling to find out, he said. I need to talk to you about something Evan said in a meeting yesterday. Do you have a few minutes? I gripped the edge of my desk. Sure, I said. What is this about? He took a breath. Evan told the entire team, Michael said quietly, that you've been abusing him and that he's afraid to go home. Everything inside me went still. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard him. I'm sorry, I said slowly. He said, what? That you've been emotionally abusive and controlling, Michael repeated, his voice carefully neutral. That he's scared of you and wasn't sure it was safe to go home after the weekend. I could hear chatter in the background on his end, an office printer, footsteps, life moving forward in a world where my boyfriend had just accused me of something that could destroy me. My throat felt tight. I have never abused him. I have never threatened him. I've never even yelled at him. I swallowed. Where did this come from? That's why I'm calling, Michael said, because it didn't line up with what I've seen, and it didn't line up with what some of his coworkers have seen either. He sighed, and I could picture him pinching the bridge of his nose, sitting in some glass-walled conference room. Look, he went on, yesterday we had an emergency strategy meeting. Big client threatening to pull their account. Evan was expected to be there. He showed up an hour late, clearly upset. When I pulled him aside, asked what was going on, he said he'd had a bad weekend, that you'd been emotionally abusive for a long time, and he was afraid to go home after another blow-up. I almost laughed because of how surreal it was. There was no blow-up, I said. He called me boring. I opted out of his work events. That's it. That's the whole story. Michael was quiet for a moment. I had to take him seriously, he said. Any claim of abuse, we don't ignore that. I told him we'd support him if he felt unsafe, that he should document everything, that HR could connect him with resources. But after the meeting, Chloe pulled me aside. Chloe, I repeated. I recognized the name. The same coworker who apparently wondered if I was imaginary. She's on his team, Michael said. She told me Evan's been complaining about you for months, calling you boring, saying you're dead weight, that you're holding him back from having a social life. She also told me he mentioned you bailed on all the events this weekend. Happy hour, summer party, engagement party. Heat flushed up my neck. Dead weight. He'd used those words about me, to people he'd known for less time than he'd known me. Chloe said she thought his story about you being abusive sounded exaggerated or fabricated, Michael continued, and she showed me some of the texts from their team chat. None of it painted you as abusive. It painted you as someone who doesn't like parties. I let out a strangled little sound that might have been a laugh if my hands weren't shaking. I'm calling you, Michael said gently, because either he's telling the truth about abuse, which would mean you need help and we need to act, or he made it up to save face after you stopped showing up for him. Either way, it's serious, and frankly, I didn't feel right not giving you a heads up. I haven't laid a hand on him, I managed. I haven't threatened him. I haven't even slammed a door. I skipped 3 social events because I was tired of being called boring. That's it. I believe you, Michael said quietly. For what it's worth, you've always seemed grounded when I've met you at events. But this is bigger than my opinion. HR is concerned that he may have made false accusations in a professional setting. They'll likely open an investigation. My mind flickered back through the past year. The jokes, the eye rolls, the subtle comments about how his ex, Sophie, always knew how to work a room, and how I don't really vibe with people. At the time, I thought he was just being thoughtless. Now it felt like those were test runs, seeing how far he could twist a story before anyone pushed back. What do I do? I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. Protect yourself, Michael said, no hesitation. If he's willing to say this at work, he might be willing to say it somewhere else. Document everything. Save your messages. Talk to a lawyer if you can. This could be nothing, or it could get messy. He paused. Either way, he added, I thought you deserved to hear it from someone who isn't trying to spin it. When we hung up, I sat on my couch with my phone still in my hand, the living room suddenly feeling like someone else's apartment, the throw blanket draped over the arm of the sofa, the framed photo of us at a beach last summer, his hand on my waist, my head tilted toward him. Our smiles looked real. I'd spent 3 years building a life with someone who, when mildly embarrassed, told his boss I was dangerous. I didn't cry, not right away. Instead, I did what I always do when I don't know what to do. I made a list. Call Daniel. Pack a bag. Get out of the apartment. Find a lawyer. Save everything. Daniel is my older brother, the one who helped me move into this place, the one who knows the exact dates I paid off my student loans because he took me out for cheap tacos to celebrate both milestones. I called him. He picked up on the second ring. Hey, Nat, what's up? His voice was easy, warm. For a second, I almost told him I'd butt-dialed him, that everything was fine. Then the words scraped out of me. I need someplace to stay for a few days, I said. Can I come there? He didn't ask why at first. That's the thing about Daniel. He knows when questions will come out sounding like accusations. Of course, he said. Do you need me to come get you? No, I said. I'll drive. I need to pack. There was a beat of silence. I could hear him piecing things together. Is it Evan? He asked quietly. Yes, I said. He said something at work that I can't ignore. Okay, Daniel said. Then we deal with it. Come here, we'll figure out the rest. After we hung up, I walked through the apartment, suddenly hyper-aware of all the evidence of our life together. His mug by the sink, our shared calendar pinned to the fridge, the print he'd insisted on buying from some street artist because it'll make the place look more grown up. I grabbed a duffel bag from the closet and started with the basics. Jeans, t-shirts, underwear, toiletries, laptop, charger, a folder for documents, even though I didn't know which ones I'd need yet. My hands moved on autopilot, the way they do when I'm color-coding a spreadsheet or rebalancing a budget. Input, process, output. I left his side of the closet untouched. On the kitchen counter, I pulled a sticky note from the pad and wrote, Your boss called. I know what you told your team. I'm staying at Daniel's for now. We need to talk, but not here and not now. I stared at the note for a long moment. It felt too calm for what I was feeling, but I didn't have any more words. I set it where I knew he'd see it, next to the keys he always misplaced, under the bowl where he dropped his loose change. Then I walked out of the apartment with my bag and locked the door behind me. Evan called me 8 times while I was driving to Daniel's. I didn't answer. By the time I pulled into my brother's driveway, the missed call count was at 12. The message icon showed 3 voicemails. I turned my phone face down on the passenger seat and took a few deep breaths before getting out of the car. Daniel opened the door before I could knock twice. He took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug. Okay, he said into my hair. Whatever this is, you're not dealing with it alone. I didn't realize I was crying until I felt my shoulders shake. That night, after I'd showered and borrowed one of Daniel's old t-shirts to sleep in, I sat on the edge of the guest bed and finally flipped my phone over. 14 missed calls, 1 new voicemail, 7 text messages. We need to talk. I don't know what Michael told you, but it's not what you think. Please pick up. You're blowing this way out of proportion. I was upset and emotional. It came out wrong. I stared at that one for a long time. It came out wrong. As if my girlfriend is abusive and I'm afraid to go home were a sentence that just tripped and fell out of his mouth by accident. I texted back, You accused me of abuse to your coworkers. What part of that is wrong wording? The reply came fast. Can we please just talk in person? No, I typed. I'm meeting with a lawyer tomorrow. Don't contact me again. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Nat, come on, don't be like this. You know I'd never actually try to ruin your life. I stared at that sentence until the letters blurred. He already had. I blocked his number. Then I put my phone on the nightstand, turned off the light, and lay in the dark guest room of my brother's house, listening to the quiet. It was the most scared I'd ever been. It was also the first time in a long time that I felt, beneath the fear, something else. A thin, steady line of resolve. I woke up before the sun, the room dim and unfamiliar, a soft hum from Daniel's old ceiling fan circling the air. For half a second, I forgot why I was there. Then everything flooded back. The accusations, the phone call, Evan's messages, and a hollow ache settled beneath my ribs. I showered, dressed in the spare clothes I'd packed, and sat at the kitchen counter, sipping the coffee Daniel handed me without a word. He knows me well enough not to force conversation before I'm ready. Your lawyer appointment's at 10, right? He asked when I finally met his eyes. Yeah, I said. I don't even know what I'm supposed to ask. You don't have to know, he replied. That's literally what lawyers are for. His steadiness grounded me. I'd always been the one with plans, with spreadsheets, with backup savings accounts. Now I was stepping into a world I'd never imagined, where someone I loved was capable of weaponizing lies. I arrived at the attorney's office early, sitting in my car for a moment before going in. The building was sleek, tinted windows reflecting a sky threatening rain. A drizzle started just as I opened the door. The lobby smelled like lemon cleaner and new carpet. A receptionist handed me a clipboard, and I filled out the forms with hands that weren't entirely steady. When the attorney came out, a woman named Rachel Alvarez, sharp eyes, soft voice, I felt a flicker of safety. Come on in, Natalie, she said, leading me into her office. Tell me what's going on. I did, all of it. The boring comments. The withdrawal from the weekend events, the boss's call, the accusations, the texts, the frantic calls, my leaving. When I finished, Rachel sat back in her chair, fingers steepled. "Well," she said gently, "I'm not going to sugarcoat this. What he did is serious." "I know," I whispered. I don't understand why." "People who rely heavily on external validation," she said, "don't always react rationally when their image is threatened. If he spent months painting you as the boring partner to look more interesting at work, your absence this weekend might have embarrassed him. Some people lash out. Some fabricate stories. It's not about truth, it's about control." Her words stung with how closely they matched the man I'd been living with. "What do I do now?" I asked. "You document everything," she said. "Save texts, screenshots, voicemails, write down dates, times, conversations. Anyone who can speak to your character, your brother, friends, co-workers, ask them to be willing to provide statements if needed." She paused. "And Natalie, if he's willing to lie at work, what stops him from lying anywhere else? You did the right thing by leaving." I nodded, my throat thick. When I left her office, the rain had picked up, soft sheets blurring the parking lot. I sat in my car for a few moments, breathing slowly, letting Rachel's words settle into something solid inside me. My phone vibrated, a number I didn't recognize. For a heartbeat, I thought it was Evan calling from a different phone. But when I answered, I heard a familiar voice. "Hi, Natalie, it's Michael Park." "Hi," I said, steadying myself. "Is everything okay?" "I wanted to update you," he said. "HR opened a formal investigation this morning." My stomach tightened. "They interviewed Chloe again," he continued, "and a few others on Evan's team. Multiple coworkers confirmed he's been complaining about you for months, calling you boring, saying you hold him back, that you don't support his social life." I closed my eyes. "Did they say anything about the abuse allegation?" I asked. "That's where things get concerning," Michael said. "No one had heard him mention anything like that before yesterday. Not once. He also told different versions of the story to different people. Details didn't match." "Of course they didn't. Lies never do." "Because of that," Michael went on, "HR placed Evan on administrative leave until the investigation concludes." A strange combination of relief and dread washed over me. "He'll probably reach out to you," Michael said gently. "I suggest you don't respond. Let the process play out." "I won't," I said. He hesitated. "I'm sorry this is happening," he added. "You didn't deserve this." "Thank you," I whispered. After we hung up, I stared out the windshield, watching raindrops slide down in crooked paths. The sky felt heavy, swollen, like it needed to break open. Back at Daniel's house, I set up at the kitchen table with my laptop and phone. I created a folder titled Documentation and started dropping in everything I had. Screenshots of Evan's texts, the voicemail he left the night I blocked him, the note I'd written him, the timeline of events, a written summary of our conversation at dinner. It felt clinical, detached, like preparing evidence for a trial I never asked for. Around mid-afternoon, my phone buzzed again. I nearly ignored it until I saw the name. Michael Park. I answered immediately. "Hi, Michael." "Natalie," he said. "There's been another development." My pulse kicked into a faster rhythm. "I talked with HR again," he said. "They interviewed several more people who were in that meeting yesterday. None of them believed Evan's story. In fact, one coworker, his name's Noah, came forward with something important." "What did he say?" I whispered. "He told HR that last Monday, before the weekend, Evan made a comment about how he was going to make you look bad if you bailed on another company event. Noah asked what he meant, and Evan apparently laughed and said, 'I'll figure something out.'" Air punched out of my lungs. Planned. He'd planned this. "That," Michael said, "is what turns this from questionable behavior into clear intent. HR takes false accusations extremely seriously." I swallowed hard. "What happens now?" I asked. "HR will continue the investigation," he said, "but based on what I'm hearing, termination is very possible." My heart twisted, not with hope, not with satisfaction, but with something heavier. Sadness. For the life I thought I had, for the man I thought Evan was. "Thank you for telling me," I said quietly. "I'll keep you updated," Michael promised. When we hung up, I sat at the table staring at my hands. They looked the same as they always had. Capable, steady, but something inside me had changed. The ground beneath the last 3 years had shifted, revealing cracks I'd ignored or painted over. Daniel walked in, drying a dish with a towel. "You okay?" he asked softly. "I think," I said, exhaling a shaky breath, "that the person I loved might not exist." He set the towel down, crossed the room, and squeezed my shoulder. "It sucks," he said simply. It really, really sucks, but you're doing the right things. You're protecting yourself. I nodded, but part of me still wanted to curl into the grief, to mourn the version of Evan I thought I knew. Hours passed. I tried reading, tried watching TV. Nothing stuck. Around 8, I unblocked Evan's number long enough to send a single message. HR is investigating your false abuse claims. You need a lawyer. Do not contact me again. We're done. He called immediately. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. His voice sounded raw, pleading. Natalie, please. I messed up. I panicked. I didn't mean it. I can fix this. We can fix this. Just call me back, please. I deleted it without listening to the rest. Then I blocked him again. Later that night, lying in the guest bed staring at the ceiling, I realized something. I wasn't just grieving him. I was grieving the version of myself who trusted him. The version of myself who thought calmness would protect me. The version of myself who didn't understand how dangerous someone could become when their ego was threatened. But beneath the grief, another feeling flickered. A quiet, growing strength. I didn't know what the investigation would find. I didn't know what Evan would do next. But I knew one thing with absolute clarity. I wasn't going back. Not to him. Not to the life where I made myself small to keep someone else comfortable. Not to being anyone's boring scapegoat again. 3 days later, I was sitting at Daniel's kitchen table with my laptop open and a mug of tea growing cold beside me when my phone buzzed again. Michael Park. My pulse stumbled. I answered on the first ring. Michael? It's done, he said. No build-up, no hesitation. The investigation is complete. I held my breath. Evan has been terminated. I closed my eyes. Not in triumph, not in satisfaction. Just release. Like something heavy inside me finally exhaled after being held too long. What happened? I asked softly. A lot, he said. HR interviewed every person who was in the room when Evan made the accusation. Every single one said his story didn't add up. They said he seemed embarrassed, volatile, and inconsistent. That sounded painfully familiar. But what really sealed it, Michael continued, was Noah's statement. He confirmed that Evan planned to make you look bad before the weekend. HR found that especially damaging. I pressed my palm over my sternum, grounding myself. Chloe also provided extensive documentation, Michael went on. Screenshots, group chat messages, even recordings from a lunch where Evan went on a rant about how you were holding him back. Of course he did, and of course she recorded it. That office recorded everything. But the final piece, Michael said, voice dropping, came from a private Slack message Evan sent to another coworker last Friday night. My breath froze. What did it say? He wrote, if she's going to embarrass me again by skipping everything this weekend, I might as well give people a real story. The world tilted, even though I was sitting perfectly still. Planned, intentional. A weapon he'd polished and set aside for the moment things didn't go his way. He tried to walk everything back with HR, Michael said. Told them he was emotional, overwhelmed, misunderstood. But the written evidence was too strong. I swallowed hard, my throat tight. How did he take the news? Not well, Michael admitted. He threatened to sue for wrongful termination. But our legal team is very confident. He has no case. A hollow relief sank into my bones. Thank you, I whispered, for calling, for everything. You deserved honesty, Michael said gently, and Evan's behavior harmed more than just you. False accusations make it harder for real victims to be believed. I sat with that for a moment. A truth I'd always known. A truth Evan had never cared about. After we hung up, I stared at the table. My tea was cold, untouched. Daniel walked in and froze when he saw my face. What happened? He asked. It's over, I said. He got fired. Daniel nodded slowly, not celebrating, just acknowledging. He set his hand on the back of my chair. I'm sorry, he murmured. Even when it's the right thing, it still hurts. I nodded. Because it did. It hurt in layers. Grief, betrayal, anger, disbelief. A slow, quiet heartbreak for the life I thought I had. Evan didn't stop trying to reach me. Not directly. His number was blocked. But mutual friends began texting. Hannah, Evan says you won't talk to him. Can we meet? Maybe I can help mediate. Riley, I heard about what happened at Evan's company. Are you okay? Riley again. I'm not defending him, but did things get blown out of proportion? Jordan, he's a mess. You should at least hear him out. Some messages were compassionate. Others tiptoed around blame. A few implied I was being too harsh. I responded the same way to all of them. There's nothing to mediate. He lied about abuse. We're done. People reacted how they reacted. None of it changed the truth. But one message surprised me. Late one evening, as I sat on the guest bed reading, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I hesitated before opening it. Hi, Natalie. This is Sophie, Evan's ex. My stomach tightened. I opened the message. I'm really sorry to bother you. He reached out to me today, out of nowhere, and I think you should know what he said. My hands trembled slightly as I replied. What did he say? Her answer came within seconds. That you were turning people against him, that he was being attacked, and that he needed me to remind people he's a good guy. I stared at the words. Of course he did. I didn't respond, she added, but I felt sick, because he did something similar to me when we were together. My breath caught. She continued. When I finally broke it off, he told people I was unstable, oversensitive, emotionally volatile. None of it was true. He just hated that I ended things first. My chest tightened. I'm sorry, I wrote. You didn't deserve that. Neither did you, she replied. I know we don't know each other, but Evan's very good at rewriting stories when he feels threatened. I wish someone had warned me, so I'm warning you now. You're doing the right thing by leaving. I sat in silence after the conversation ended. A sadness washed over me, not for Evan, but for the pattern, for the women who came before me, for the version of myself that thought stability would protect me. Sophie's warning wasn't a twist. It was a confirmation, a pattern I'd been too close to see. A few days later, Michael called one last time, not for updates, but because he genuinely wanted to check on me. We're including a segment about this situation in our workplace integrity training, he said, not naming him, of course, but the incident will be used as an example of how false accusations erode trust and harm real victims. It hit me unexpectedly, a sense of closure, small but meaningful. What he did won't just vanish, I said quietly. No, Michael agreed, but neither will the truth. We talked for a few minutes more before hanging up. Afterward, I sat on the back porch of Daniel's house, wrapped in a blanket, listening to the evening settle. Crickets, the hum of distant traffic, the sound of my own breath. Not peace, exactly, but something close. I wasn't done healing, but I wasn't drowning anymore. 2 months after I walked out of the apartment Evan and I once shared, I turned the key in the lock of my new place, a small one-bedroom on the top floor of a building with no elevator, too many stairs, and sunlight that poured through the windows every afternoon like it was coming to check on me. It wasn't fancy, it wasn't big, but it was mine. The kind of space where nothing echoed except my own thoughts, where the routines were my own, where quiet didn't mean tension, it meant peace. The first night I slept there, I lay awake for a while, listening to the low hum of the city outside. I thought of Rachel Alvarez's calm expression across her desk, of Michael Park's steady voice, of Chloe's unexpected honesty, of Sophie's warning, of Daniel's unwavering presence. Every piece of this nightmare had also revealed someone showing up for me, and that mattered, more than I realized. Evan did not sue. Rachel told me his lawyer, yes, he actually tried to get one, advised him he had no grounds for a wrongful termination case. Pursuing it would have dragged his Slack messages and false accusations into legal record, destroying whatever chance he had left at rebuilding his career. So he dropped it. Last I heard from mutual acquaintances, he was struggling, not getting callbacks from companies, taking side gigs, renting a room in someone's house, avoiding social media. Part of me felt bad for him, a small part. The rest of me remembered the moment his boss said the words, "He told us you were abusive." And that part felt nothing. Then one day, out of the blue, I got a text from an unknown number. "Could we meet, please, just for closure?" Evan. I almost deleted it. But something in me, call it finality, call it clean endings, didn't want to leave even a strand of the past untied. So I replied, 1 hour, public place, coffee shop on 3rd and Monroe. When I walked in the next afternoon, Evan was already there. He looked small, not physically, just worn down, edges softened by sleepless nights, shoulders rounded, a man who'd spent 2 months running from a version of himself he never wanted to face. He stood when he saw me. "Natalie," he said, voice cracking slightly, "thank you for coming." I sat, didn't bother pretending this was a reunion of any sort. He rubbed the back of his neck, took a shaky breath. "I'm so sorry," he said, "for everything, for the comments, for talking about you at work, for the accusations. I don't even know what I was thinking." I didn't say anything. I let silence fill the space he'd once filled with excuses. "I panicked," he said. "Saturday at the party, everyone was asking where you were. People were joking. Then one of my coworkers, Chloe, I think, made a comment about how it must mean something if my own girlfriend didn't want to come." He swallowed hard. And when Michael asked if things were okay at home, I wanted to look like the victim. I wanted the sympathy. It just came out. And once I said it, I couldn't take it back. You didn't try to take it back, I said quietly. You doubled down. He flinched. I know, he whispered. I was wrong. About everything. You weren't boring. You were responsible, steady. You kept our lives functioning, and I didn't appreciate that. I studied him, really studied him, and for the first time, I didn't see the man I had loved. I saw the man he had been the whole time, someone who needed to be admired, someone who needed to be the fun one, someone who couldn't handle even the slightest bruise to his ego, someone who rewrote stories to protect his image, even if someone else had to bleed for it. Evan, I said softly, I might have forgiven the insults. I might have forgiven you telling your coworkers I was boring. I might have even forgiven the complaining. He looked up, desperate. But the abuse accusations? I shook my head. That crossed a line you can't uncross. I know, he whispered. I know. I'm not saying this to hurt you, I said, but so you understand. What you did wasn't a mistake. It was a choice, a dangerous one. And I'm not going to build my life with someone who protects his reputation over the truth. He nodded, eyes glassy. Is there any chance? No, I said, there isn't. He nodded again, as if the words were a physical weight he had no choice but to carry. For what it's worth, he said softly, you deserve someone better than me. I know, I replied. We didn't drag the moment out. We finished our coffees in silence. When we stood, he hesitated before extending his arms. I gave him a brief, distant hug. Not forgiveness, not affection, just closure. Then we walked out in opposite directions. I didn't look back. 3 days later, Michael emailed me, just checking in. We met for lunch at a quiet cafe near my new place. He told me Evan's situation had become an internal case study. Anonymous, of course, during workplace integrity training. It opened a lot of eyes, he said, especially around how false accusations damage not only innocent people, but real victims. I nodded. It's strange, I said, to think something so painful could protect others. Painful things often do, he replied. There was no flirtation between us, no implication of anything more, just two people who'd weathered an ugly storm from different angles and were quietly relieved it had passed. Later that evening, I curled up on my couch, in my sunlit apartment, a book open on my lap. I had a warm cup of chamomile tea, a fuzzy blanket around my legs, and soft music playing in the background. Everything Evan once mocked as boring. But for the first time in a long time, I felt something bloom beneath my ribs. Not fear, not tightness, not grief. Space, actual space, for breath, for softness, for the small joys of being myself. I joined a book club, started going to trivia nights with Daniel, signed up for a weekend photography class. I took long walks in the evenings just because I liked the way the city lights shimmered on the pavement. I wasn't glamorous, I wasn't loud. I wasn't the life of anyone's office happy hour, but I was steady and curious and thoughtful and alive in ways I hadn't been in months. And none of it felt boring. It felt like coming home to myself. If Evan hadn't made that comment, if he hadn't revealed who he really was, we might have gotten married. I might have spent years or decades shrinking myself, sanding off my edges to fit into the shape he needed me to be. Instead, I was starting over, 32, alone, but in the best way. With clarity, with hope, with peace, with the kind of ballast that doesn't weigh you down, but steadies you for the long journey ahead.